I found my daughter sitting on that park bench in the rain. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the kind of gray, miserable day Boston does so well. The rain wasn't heavy, just steady enough to soak through your clothes and make you wonder why you bothered getting out of bed. Maya was sitting on the green bench near the duck pond, the one with the memorial plaque nobody ever reads. She wasn't crying. That's what broke my heart. She was just empty. Her daughter, my grandbaby Zoe, sat pressed against her side, clutching that stuffed elephant she's had since she was 2. The one with the missing eye that she refuses to let me sew back on because she says he's perfect the way he is. 5 years old and already wiser than most adults I know. 3 suitcases sat at their feet. Louis Vuitton. The real ones, not knockoffs. I recognized them because Maya had shown them to me when Daniel bought them for their anniversary trip to Paris. She'd been so proud. "Look, Mama," she'd said, running her fingers over the monogram. "Can you believe it?" Me, with Louis Vuitton. Now those suitcases were busted, zippers torn open, clothes spilling out into the puddles. A pink sweater, cashmere I think, was half submerged in dirty water. Someone had thrown these bags. Hard. I pulled my 2001 Honda Civic up to the curb. The engine made that grinding sound it always does, the one the mechanic keeps telling me I need to fix. The duct tape on the rear bumper was coming loose again. I'd been meaning to replace it. Maya looked up when she heard the car. For a second, she didn't recognize me. I was wearing my work uniform, the pale blue polo shirt with Golden Years Home Services embroidered on the pocket. My name tag said Emily V. They'd never bothered to spell out Vega. "Mama?" Her voice cracked. Then she saw it was really me, and her face just crumpled. "Mama, I didn't know who else to call. I put the car in park right there in the loading zone. Didn't care about the meter. Didn't care about the ticket I'd probably get." I got out and walked over to my daughter, my sneakers, the white Keds I bought at Target, squelching in the wet grass. Zoe looked up at me with those big brown eyes. "Grandma," she whispered, "are we poor now?" That question. Lord, that question. I knelt down in the rain, right there on the wet ground, and I took my grandbaby's face in my hands. "No, sweetheart," I said, "we are not poor. We are not poor at all." Then I looked at my daughter. Maya was 32 years old, had 2 degrees from Boston University, and worked as a senior software engineer. She made 6 figures. She lived in a house in Beacon Hill that I could have bought 100 times over, but I let her buy it herself, let her feel that pride of ownership, and now she was sitting on a park bench in the rain with everything she owned in 3 broken suitcases. "Get in the car, baby," I said quietly. "Mama, I can't impose. I just need to. I have some money saved. I can get us a hotel for tonight, and then I'll figure out." "Maya," I used the voice, the one that doesn't get argued with. "Get in the car." She nodded and started gathering the suitcases. I grabbed the smallest one. The handle was completely snapped off, and hauled it to my trunk. As I lifted it, I noticed something. A muddy footprint on the side of the bag. A designer shoe print. Someone had literally kicked this suitcase. I loaded it carefully into my trunk, right next to my cleaning supplies and the library books I was supposed to return last week. The contrast was deliberate. I wanted to remember this moment. I wanted to remember what Catherine Ashford thought she could do to my family. Because Catherine Ashford had just made the biggest mistake of her life. She thought throwing a black woman and her mixed-race child into the street would prove something, would prove her family's superiority, would prove that the Ashfords were better than us. She didn't know that the elderly woman she called Emily Dear at Thanksgiving dinner, the one she asked to help in the kitchen while the adults talked business, owned the mortgage on her Beacon Hill mansion. She didn't know that the quiet grandmother she barely glanced at owned the bank that held her family's debt. She didn't know that the woman in the Goodwill sweater owned her, but she was about to find out. Before I tell you how I brought a Boston dynasty to its knees in 48 hours, let me take you back 6 months. Because this story doesn't start on a rainy park bench. It starts at a dinner table where I was invisible. And being invisible, I learned a long time ago, is the most powerful position you can occupy. They called it the Ashford Christmas Dinner, capital A, capital C, capital D, like it was an institution, a holy event. 6 months before that park bench, I sat in Catherine Ashford's kitchen, well, not the main dining room, the breakfast nook, wearing a cardigan from Walmart and watching them perform. Because that's what it was, a performance. The real dinner was happening in the formal dining room. 12 people seated around a table that could fit 90 underneath a chandelier that cost more than most people earn in a year. I could see them through the doorway. Catherine at the head of the table, wearing Chanel and pearls that were definitely real. Her son Daniel, my son-in-law, though he barely acknowledged me, sat to her right in a suit that had been tailored to within an inch of its life. Maya sat 5 seats down, close enough to be included, far enough to remember her place. I sat in the breakfast nook with the Coates. "Emily, dear," Catherine had said when we arrived, her voice dripping with that particular kind of kindness that isn't kind at all. "You look tired. Why don't you rest in here? We're going to discuss some rather boring business matters. Investments, you know. Nothing that would interest you." She patted my arm, actually patted it, like I was a child or a dog. "Of course, Mrs. Ashford," I'd said, smiling. "You all enjoy yourselves." Maya had given me an apologetic look, but she didn't argue. She never argued with Catherine. None of them did. Catherine Ashford was the kind of woman who ran her family like a corporation, and dissent wasn't part of the business model. So I sat in the breakfast nook with a plate of sides. They'd given me the turkey that was a little dry, and the rolls that didn't rise quite right, and I listened. People think I don't hear well at my age. They're wrong. I hear everything. "The vineyard property is appreciating nicely," Catherine was saying. "We should consider selling next summer when the market peaks." "Mother, I think we should hold," Daniel said. "The projections show—" "Daniel," Catherine's voice could cut glass. "I've been managing this family's portfolio since before you were born. We'll sell." Silence. Then murmurs of agreement. Through the doorway, I watched Maya take a sip of wine. The Ashfords had given her the cheap Chardonnay, I noticed. Everyone else was drinking something from a bottle that probably cost $300. But Maya didn't notice. Or if she did, she didn't say anything. She was good at not noticing things. I'd raised her that way, unfortunately. Don't make waves. Don't cause problems. Be grateful for what you have. I was beginning to think I'd taught her the wrong lessons. "Maya," Catherine said, turning to my daughter with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "how's that little coding project of yours going?" Little coding project. Maya was the lead architect on a system that processed $50 million in transactions daily. But to Catherine, it was a little project. "It's going well, Mrs. Ashford," Maya said quietly. "We launched the new interface last week. Engagement is up 40%. "How nice." Catherine took a sip of her wine. "You know, Sienna's friend Margaret is a coder too, though she works for Google now. Much more stable than those little startup companies." Maya worked for a Fortune 500 company, but she just nodded. "That's wonderful for Margaret." I watched my daughter shrink in her seat, and something inside me went very still and very cold. Sienna, Catherine's daughter from her first marriage, laughed. "Mom, Google isn't really more stable than—" "Sienna?" Catherine didn't even look at her. "Would you check on the dessert?" Sienna got up immediately. In the Ashford house, when Catherine spoke, you moved. As Sienna passed through the kitchen, she saw me sitting there. For a moment, our eyes met. I smiled at her. She looked away quickly, grabbed the dessert plates, and hurried back to the dining room. That's when little Zoe came running in. She'd been upstairs in the playroom. The Ashfords had hired a babysitter for the evening because children weren't allowed at adult dinner. But she'd escaped. "Grandma!" She climbed into my lap, her little body warm and solid. "I missed you. Why are you eating in here?" "Grandma's just keeping the Coates company, baby." "That's silly. Coates don't need company." She grabbed a roll from my plate. "The lady upstairs is boring. She keeps telling me to use my indoor voice. I am using my indoor voice." I laughed, hugging her close. She smelled like the lavender soap Maya used on her hair and the chocolate she'd clearly been sneaking from somewhere. "Zoe," Daniel appeared in the doorway, looking flustered. "What did I tell you about interrupting dinner?" "But Daddy, I just wanted to see Grandma." "Upstairs. Now." His voice was sharp, embarrassed. He glanced back toward the dining room where Catherine was watching. "Emily, I'm sorry. She knows better." "It's fine, Daniel. She's just— Could you take her back up?" He wasn't asking. "The sitter needs to keep better control." I looked at my son-in-law. This man who'd promised to love and cherish my daughter. This man who couldn't even look me in the eye anymore. "Of course," I said quietly. I carried Zoe upstairs, her little arms around my neck. As we climbed the steps, I heard Catherine's voice drift up. "Daniel, honestly, you need to set better boundaries. Children need structure. And speaking of structure, we need to discuss your promotion. The board won't, well, we'll talk privately later. I tucked Zoe back into the playroom and stayed with her, reading her stories while the babysitter scrolled through her phone. Through the floor, I could hear the dinner party continuing. Laughter, glasses clinking. Catherine's voice, always Catherine's voice, holding court. Around 9, Maya came to collect Zoe. Her eyes were red, though she was trying to hide it. "You okay, baby?" I asked. "Fine, Mama." She wouldn't look at me. "Just tired. It's been a long week." "Maya, we should go. Daniel has an early meeting." We gathered our things. Catherine appeared in the foyer as we were leaving, all smiles and air kisses that never quite touched skin. "Thank you for coming, Maya dear. And Emily?" She pressed something into my hand. "A little something for you. An early Christmas gift." After we left, I looked at what she'd given me. A gift card to Target. $50. I put it in my wallet without comment and drove my daughter and granddaughter home in my Honda with the grinding engine. That night, after Maya and Zoe went inside their big, beautiful house in Beacon Hill, the house that I'd watched them save for, that Maya had been so proud to buy, I sat in my car for a long moment. Then I made a phone call. "Naomi," I said when she answered. "We need to pull a full financial workup on Ashford Capital. Everything. Assets, debts, partnerships. I want to know every dollar they owe and who they owe it to. Emily." Naomi Laurent had been my CFO for 20 years. She knew my voice. She knew when I was serious and when I was plotting. "What happened?" "They called Maya's work a little project," I said quietly. "They gave me a $50 Target gift card, and they made my grandbaby eat dinner alone because she wasn't good enough for their table." There was a long pause on the line. "How deep do you want me to dig?" Naomi asked. "Deep enough to find bones." I hung up and looked at the house one more time. Maya's bedroom light was on. I could see her shadow moving behind the curtains. My strong, brilliant daughter who'd been taught to make herself small. Not anymore. But I didn't act then. That would have been reckless, emotional. The thing about revenge, and make no mistake, that's what this was, is that it requires patience. It requires planning. It requires being invisible long enough to see everything they don't want you to see. For the next 6 months, I watched. I went to family dinners where Catherine directed me to the kitchen. I attended Zoe's birthday party where Daniel's family gave expensive gifts and I gave homemade cookies. I sat through Sunday brunches where Catherine discussed business matters and asked me to watch the children outside. "Would you, Emily dear?" And every time they dismissed me, every time they looked through me, every time they treated me like furniture, I gathered information. I learned that Ashford Capital was hemorrhaging money. I learned that Daniel was having an affair with Sienna's friend from the country club. I learned that Catherine had borrowed against the house, the historic Beacon Hill mansion that had been in her family for 3 generations, to cover business debts. I learned that the Ashford empire was built on credit and sinking fast. And I waited. Because the thing about being invisible is this: people forget you're in the room. They forget you're listening. They forget you have a brain in your head and eyes in your face. They forget that quiet doesn't mean stupid, and weak doesn't mean powerless. Let me tell you who I really am. My name is Emily Vega, and I am 67 years old. For the past 15 years, I have lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Roxbury. I take the bus downtown 3 days a week wearing my Golden Years Home Services uniform. I clip coupons. I buy store-brand cereal. I drive a car that's older than some of the people reading this. What Maya doesn't know, what no one except 3 people in the world knows, is that the bus I take doesn't stop at someone's home. It stops at the Vega building on Franklin Street. 40 stories of glass and steel in the heart of Boston's financial district. I own it. I also own Vega Corp, a private equity firm with a portfolio valued at $1.2 billion. I own a medical supply chain that serves 80 hospitals across New England. I own 40% of Boston's affordable housing units. I own a tech incubator that has launched 17 successful startups in the last decade. I own the consulting firm that Ashford Capital hired last year to analyze their debt problem. Small world, isn't it? But let me back up. Because this story doesn't start with money. It starts with a mop and a bucket and a determination to survive. I was born in 1957 in Roxbury, the daughter of a factory worker and a seamstress. I was the youngest of 5 children. We lived in a triple-decker with thin walls and thinner heat. My mother worked 16-hour days, taking in alterations. My father worked the night shift at a shoe factory that closed when I was 12. We were poor, not the romantic kind of poor you see in movies, the real kind. The kind where you wear your shoes until your toes poke through, and then you stuff newspaper in them and wear them some more. I was a good student, smart enough to get into Boston Latin on scholarship, smart enough to graduate with honors, smart enough to get into Northeastern University, not smart enough or rich enough or white enough to afford to stay. I dropped out after one semester. The money just wasn't there. My parents needed help with the bills, and my scholarship didn't cover books or food or the bus fare to get to campus. So I got a job. January 1976, I was 19 years old, and I became a night janitor at Goldman Sachs's Boston office. They paid $3.25 an hour. I worked midnight to 8 in the morning, 5 days a week. My job was to empty trash cans, vacuum carpets, and clean bathrooms. Make the office look perfect for the men in suits who arrived at 9. Those men never looked at me. I was invisible even then, but I looked at them. More importantly, I looked at what they threw away. Analyst reports, market projections, internal memos about which companies were expanding and which were about to tank. All of it, just toss it in the trash like it was nothing. I started reading everything. Every piece of paper I found, I took home. I'd read it on the bus, at the kitchen table while my mother sewed, in bed before I fell asleep. I taught myself to understand what it all meant. Price-to-earnings ratios, debt-to-equity, cash flow, arbitrage. I built myself an education from other people's garbage, and I started saving. Every penny I didn't need for rent or food, I saved. I didn't buy new clothes. I didn't go to movies. I didn't date. I just worked and saved and learned. In 1978, I met David Vega. He was a postal worker, steady and kind. We got married in a small ceremony at City Hall. Maya was born in 1994, the same year I finally saved $50,000. $50,000. It took me 9 years. David thought we should buy a house. His mother thought we should buy a car. Everyone had an opinion about what we should do with that money. But I knew what I was going to do. I'd been planning it for years. I started a company, Vega Ventures. My specialty was simple. I found small businesses owned by minorities, Black, Latino, Asian, that were struggling. Businesses that banks wouldn't touch. Businesses that white investors considered too risky. I bought them. I restructured them. I made them profitable. And then I sold them for 3 times what I paid. By 1990, I had $500,000. By 1995, I had $5 million. By 2000, I had $50 million. David saw some of it, not all of it. I kept the business quiet, separate. He knew I was doing well, but he didn't know how well. I think he suspected, but he never asked. Maybe he should have. In 1998, David died. Heart attack. He was 42 years old. The doctor said it was genetic, a heart condition he'd been born with, undetected until it was too late. But I knew better. It was the stress, the constant grinding stress of being a black man in America, of working twice as hard for half the recognition, of watching white colleagues get promoted while he got passed over, of trying to provide for his family while the world told him he wasn't enough. The stress killed him as surely as any bullet. And I decided, my daughter would never feel that weight. She would have security, but she would never know the cost of it. She would build her own life, earn her own success, feel her own pride. She would be strong enough to carry the truth when I was ready to share it. So I disappeared, or appeared to disappear. I moved into a modest apartment. I created the home health aide persona. I let Maya believe I was barely scraping by on Social Security and part-time work. And I built an empire in the shadows. Vega Corp expanded. I brought on Naomi Laurent as CFO in 2003. She's Haitian-American, brilliant, and the only person besides my lawyers who knows the full scope of what I control. I hired Andre Williams, former FBI, to head security in 2007. He makes sure my privacy stays intact. I brought on Rita Kowalski as chief counsel in 2010. She's the best corporate lawyer in Boston, and she doesn't work cheap. Between the 3 of them, they run the day-to-day operations of a billion-dollar portfolio while I maintain my cover as a retired home health worker. Why? Because the moment people know you have money, everything changes. You become a target, a mark. Your relationships become transactional. Your family becomes mercenary. I'd seen it happen to other Black entrepreneurs. The lawsuits, the family members crawling out of the woodwork, the scrutiny, the assumption that somehow you didn't earn it, that it must be stolen or fraudulent or lucky. I wanted none of that. So I hid, I watched, I waited, and I made sure that when Maya built her life, she built it on her own merit. When she got her degree, she earned it. When she got her job, she proved herself. When she bought her house, she saved for it. She was never the daughter of a billionaire living off daddy's money. She was Maya Vega, software engineer, self-made woman. I was so proud of her. And then she married Daniel Ashford. I should have stopped it. I saw the red flags. I saw how Catherine looked at my daughter, like she was an acquisition, not a person. I saw how Daniel introduced Maya to his colleagues. My wife works in tech. Never my wife is a senior engineer. But Maya was happy, or she said she was, and I'd spent her whole life teaching her to be independent, to make her own choices. So I let her marry into a family that would never truly accept her. And I watched them try to break her. At every dinner, every holiday, every family function, I watched Catherine chip away at my daughter's confidence, watched Daniel's shame grow as his mother made it clear. You married beneath you, son. I watched my granddaughter, my beautiful, smart, funny Zoe, get treated like she was something to be hidden. Too loud, too curious, too Black. And I gathered evidence. Every condescending comment Catherine made, I remembered. Every time they excluded Maya from business discussions, I noted it. Every microaggression, every slight, every moment of casual racism, I cataloged it all. But I also dug deeper. 3 weeks before that rainy park bench, Naomi called me with information. "Emily," she said, "Ashford Capital just took out a $30 million bridge loan from Crossway Partners." I went very still. Crossway? Yes. They're trying to cover debt from a failed acquisition. They're hemorrhaging cash. I knew this because I own Crossway Partners. I've owned it since 2015. It's one of 6 shell companies I use for high-risk lending. Catherine Ashford had borrowed $30 million from the woman whose daughter she called a diversity hire. She just didn't know it yet. "Pull the full breakdown," I told Naomi. "Every loan, every asset, every piece of collateral. I want to know exactly how deep the hole is." "How deep do you want me to dig?" I thought about Maya's face at that Christmas dinner. I thought about Zoe asking why she couldn't eat with the family. I thought about Catherine patting my arm and calling me Emily dear while discussing investments she assumed I couldn't understand. Deep enough to find bones, I said. 2 weeks later, I had the full picture. Ashford Capital was $67 million in debt. They'd mortgaged the historic family home. They'd borrowed against Daniel's trust fund. They'd taken out loans from 3 different regional banks, all nervous about repayment. The company was a house of cards in a windstorm, and I owned the wind. But I still didn't act. Because revenge, real revenge, isn't about striking fast. It's about timing. I waited for Catherine to make the mistake that would justify everything I was about to do. I waited for her to cross the line. And then, on a rainy Tuesday in May, she did. She threw my daughter and granddaughter into the street. The call came on a Tuesday at 11:47 p.m. I was in my office, my real office, on the 40th floor of the Vega building. Naomi and I were reviewing quarterly reports from the medical supply division when my personal cell phone buzzed. The one only family has the number to. Maya's name lit up the screen. I picked up immediately. "Baby?" "Mama." Her voice was shaking. Not crying yet, but close. "Mama, I need you. Can you come get us?" I was already standing, grabbing my coat. "Where are you?" "We're in the car, in the driveway. Daniel, he changed the locks." "Mama, he changed the locks and Catherine is here, and they won't let me in the house. And Zoe is asking questions I don't know how to answer, and I can't. Maya, breathe. Are you safe right now?" "Yes." "No, I don't know. There's a security guard, and he said if I don't leave, they'll call the police. Mama, I live here. This is my house. I helped pay the mortgage, and now they're saying, I'm on my way. Don't move. Lock your car doors. I'll be there in 15 minutes. I hung up and looked at Naomi. She'd heard enough. "Go," she said. "I'll pull everything we have on the Ashfords. Meet me back here at 6 a.m. I didn't change out of my work clothes, the tailored pants and silk blouse I wore in the office. I'd deal with the disguise later. Right now, my daughter needed me. I made it to Beacon Hill in 12 minutes. I knew I was speeding. I didn't care. Maya's car, a sensible Subaru she'd saved 3 years to buy, was parked in the circular driveway of the Ashford mansion. The house was lit up like Christmas, every window blazing. I could see silhouettes moving inside. Maya was in the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel. Zoe was in her car seat in the back, eyes wide and frightened. I parked my Honda behind her car and got out. That's when I saw Catherine. She was standing on the front steps of the mansion, wearing a silk robe that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Her arms were crossed. Next to her stood Daniel, in pajama pants and a t-shirt, not meeting anyone's eyes, and behind them, just inside the doorway, I saw her. A blonde woman, maybe 28, wearing one of Maya's bathrobes. So it was true. The affair Naomi had uncovered wasn't speculation. "Emily," Catherine's voice was cold. "This is a private family matter. You should go." I walked slowly up the driveway. The security guard, a young man who looked uncomfortable with the whole situation, started to step forward, but something in my face made him stop. "I'm here for my daughter," I said quietly. "Your daughter needs to leave," Catherine said. "This property belongs to the Ashford family. Maya is no longer welcome here." "Mama, please." Maya had gotten out of her car. "Please, just let me get some clothes for Zoe. She doesn't have her stuffed animals. She doesn't have—" "You have 30 minutes, Daniel said suddenly. He wouldn't look at Maya. 30 minutes to get your things and go." "Daniel," Maya's voice broke. "This is our home. You're my husband. We have a daughter. You can't just—" "I can." His voice was flat. "The house is in my name. The prenup is clear. You're not entitled to anything." "The prenup said in case of divorce. We're not divorced." "We will be." He finally looked at her. His eyes were empty. "My lawyer will contact you next week." Maya staggered like she'd been hit. "You planned this. You've been planning this." Catherine stepped forward. "Maya, don't make this ugly. You're a smart girl. Surely you understand this marriage was never going to work long term. You and Daniel come from very different backgrounds." The word hung in the air like poison. "Different backgrounds?" Maya's voice rose. "What does that mean, Catherine? Say what you really mean." "I mean—" Catherine's face tightened. "Daniel needs a partner who can move in our circles, someone who understands our world, someone who can give him appropriate heirs." "Appropriate heirs?" Maya turned to Daniel. "Your daughter is in that car. Our daughter. Zoe is your child." Daniel flinched but said nothing. "She's not appropriate?" Maya's voice was shaking with rage now. "She's 5 years old and you're calling her inappropriate?" "Don't be dramatic," Catherine said. "Of course we love Zoe. We'll work out generous visitation. But she needs structure, stability, not—" She waved at Maya's Subaru. "Not this chaos. Living with you would be unsuitable." I felt something inside me go very still and very cold. Unsuitable, inappropriate, different backgrounds. All those careful words that meant one thing, not white enough. 30 minutes, Daniel repeated. "After that, we call the police." Maya turned to me, tears finally falling. "Mama, what do I do?" I looked at Catherine. I looked at Daniel. I looked at the blonde woman in Maya's bathrobe, watching from the doorway with barely concealed triumph. And I made a decision. "Come on, baby," I said softly. "Let's get your things." We went inside. Catherine made the security guard follow us like we were criminals. Like Maya hadn't lived in this house for 5 years. Like she might steal the silver. Maya's hands were shaking so hard she could barely pack. I helped her, moving quickly and efficiently through the bedroom. Clothes, Zoe's toys, important documents. I made sure we got those. Birth certificates, social security cards, Maya's laptop. 20 minutes, the security guard said from the doorway. I looked at him. "We're going as fast as we can, young man." He had the grace to look ashamed. We finished packing. 3 suitcases, the Louis Vuitton ones Daniel had bought Maya for their anniversary. I helped carry them downstairs. Catherine was waiting in the foyer. "I trust you got everything?" Maya didn't answer. She was crying too hard. "Maya," Catherine said, her voice almost gentle. Almost. "This is for the best. You'll see. Daniel deserves someone who fits our family. Someone who can help him, not hold him back." "Hold him back?" Maya's voice cracked. I supported him through business school. I paid half the mortgage when he was between jobs. And we're grateful for your contribution. Catherine opened the front door. But it's time to move on, for everyone's sake. We walked out. I was carrying 2 of the suitcases. Maya had the 3rd. The security guard started to close the door, then hesitated. "Mrs. Ashford," he said quietly to Maya, "I'm really sorry about this." The door closed in his face. We were halfway down the steps when I heard it. A laugh, high and bright and cruel. The blonde woman laughing about something. Maya heard it too. She stopped walking. Then Catherine said something I'll never forget. She said it loud enough for us to hear, probably on purpose. "Well," Catherine announced to whoever was inside, "that's settled. Daniel, call your lawyer first thing tomorrow, and someone should contact that boarding school in Connecticut. Zoe will need proper education once the custody arrangement is finalized." Custody arrangement. They were going to try to take Zoe. I felt Maya's whole body tense. She dropped the suitcase. It hit the stone steps and tumbled down, the zipper bursting open. Clothes spilled everywhere. "Mama?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Did she just say—" "I know, baby." Catherine appeared in the doorway again, irritated. "Please clean up this mess. You're on private property." That's when I saw Daniel do it. He came to the doorway, looked at the suitcase with Maya's clothes scattered across the steps, and he kicked it. Actually kicked it, sending it rolling down toward the street. The handle snapped off. The side split open. Maya made a sound I'd never heard before, like something breaking inside her. 30 minutes are up, Catherine said. "Leave. Now." The security guard actually picked up the broken suitcase and the spilled clothes and carried them to Maya's car, his face red with shame. He helped us load everything. As we were getting ready to leave, Catherine called out one more time. "Oh, and Emily, I'd appreciate it if you didn't contact the family anymore. We'll communicate through lawyers from now on. I'm sure you understand." I looked at her, really looked at her, standing on her marble steps in her silk robe, backlit by her chandelier, absolutely confident in her superiority. "I understand perfectly, Mrs. Ashford," I said quietly. She smiled, satisfied, and went back inside. Maya couldn't drive. She was shaking too hard. So I drove her Subaru, and she sat in the passenger seat, holding Zoe in her lap even though it wasn't safe, because Zoe was crying and asking why Daddy didn't want them anymore. I followed them back to my apartment, my small, modest apartment in Roxbury that I'd kept all these years as part of the disguise. We got them inside. I put Zoe in my bed with her damaged stuffed elephant. I made Maya tea she didn't drink, and then Maya said it. "Mama, I'm so sorry." I looked at my daughter. My beautiful, brilliant daughter who was apologizing for being thrown out of her own home. "Sorry for what, baby?" "For failing, for embarrassing you, she gestured at herself, "for being so stupid. I should have known he didn't really love me. I should have known I wasn't good enough for them. You tried to warn me and I didn't listen, and now I've lost everything and—" "Stop." I took her face in my hands. "You listen to me, Maya Vega. You did not fail. You loved someone who didn't deserve it. That's not failure. That's having a heart." "But I don't have anything, Mama. No house, no husband, and now Catherine wants Zoe." "You have me," I said firmly. "And that's enough. Do you trust me?" She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Then I need you to do something for me. Tomorrow I need you to take the day off work. I need you to wear your best interview suit. And I need you to come with me at 2 p.m. Can you do that?" "Where are we going?" "To a meeting at Ashford Capital." "Mama, I can't go there. Catherine won't do anything," I said. "Trust me, just one more day. Can you give me that?" She nodded, exhausted. After she fell asleep on my couch, I went into the bedroom and made 3 phone calls. First to Naomi. "Buy it. All of it. Every piece of Ashford debt. I don't care what it costs. I want it done by morning." Second to Andre. "I need detailed financial records, bank statements, emails, everything. Legal and court admissible." Third to Rita. "Prepare foreclosure papers, and I need a custody lawyer, the best in Boston." Then I sat in the dark and watched my daughter sleep, and I thought about Catherine Ashford's face when I was done with her. 7 a.m., Catherine's timeline. Catherine woke up in her Beacon Hill mansion feeling victorious. She'd handled the Maya situation cleanly, efficiently. No mess, no scandal, just a quiet removal of an unsuitable element from the family. She had her coffee on the terrace, imported Ethiopian blend, $60 a pound, and made a list of tasks for the day. 1. Call family lawyer, strengthen prenup language. 2. Contact boarding schools for Zoe. 3. Brunch with Sienna to discuss Daniel's fresh start. 4. Afternoon meeting at Boston Trust Bank. Secure loan extension. The loan was a formality, really. The Ashford name had been banking with Boston Trust since 1887. They'd understand the temporary cash flow issue. Everything was under control. 7 a.m. Emily's timeline. I was in my office before sunrise, still wearing yesterday's clothes. Naomi had already been there for an hour, multiple computer screens glowing in the dim light. "Talk to me," I said. She turned her chair to face me. Ashford Capital's total debt exposure, $67 million, spread across 3 regional banks. All of them are nervous. The company's had 2 quarters of losses. The banks want out. How fast can we buy it? I already started. Made calls at 4 a.m. when European markets opened. By noon, Vegacorp will own every single loan. The house? The Beacon Hill mansion is mortgaged to Commonwealth Bank for $8 million. They're also nervous. 1 missed payment and they trigger default. Buy that too. Naomi smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Already did. Closed at 6 a.m. Catherine Ashford now owes you $8 million on her house. She doesn't know it yet. I sat down heavily. How long do they have before the balloon payment comes due? Ashford Capital, 48 hours, Friday at 5 p.m. Can Catherine possibly pay it? Naomi shook her head. Not without a major capital injection. She's counting on that Boston Trust loan. She has a meeting scheduled for tomorrow at 4 p.m. Who's handling her application at Boston Trust? Senior VP of Commercial Lending, guy named Robert Morrison. Do we own Boston Trust? No, but we own a significant portion of their commercial loan portfolio. Morrison will take our call. I picked up my office phone and dialed. It was 7:15 a.m. Morrison wouldn't be in yet, but I left a message with his assistant. This is Emily Vega from Vegacorp. I need to speak with Mr. Morrison about the Ashford Capital application. It's urgent. Tell him to call me before he meets with Mrs. Ashford. Then I called Andre. Tell me you have something, I said. Plenty. His voice was grim. Daniel's been seeing Natalie Preston, that's the blonde, for 8 months. Hotel receipts, text messages, the works. They've been planning this for a while. What kind of planning? There's an email chain between Catherine and Daniel from 4 months ago. Subject line, succession planning. They discussed removing Maya before Daniel's promotion to COO. Direct quote from Catherine. The board won't accept a black woman as the face of an executive's family. We need to handle this delicately but definitively. I felt my jaw tighten. That's premeditated. Very, and there's more. Catherine filed a restraining order petition yesterday afternoon. Claims Maya has been increasingly unstable and potentially violent. All fabricated. No police reports, no witnesses except Catherine's friends. She's trying to paint Maya as an unfit mother. That's the play. Get the restraining order, then use it to file for emergency custody of Zoe. When's the hearing? Next Tuesday. But Emily, he paused. If we move on the debt before then, Catherine won't have money for lawyers. The custody case collapses. Good, I said. That's exactly what I want. 12 p.m. Catherine's timeline. Catherine had a lovely brunch at the Four Seasons with Sienna and 3 friends from the country club. Over lobster salad and champagne, she explained the situation. It was simply time, Catherine said, dabbing her mouth with a linen napkin. Maya is a lovely girl, but she and Daniel were never suited. Different values, different backgrounds. The women nodded knowingly. And the child? One of them asked. Zoe will be better off with structure. We're looking at Rosewood Academy in Connecticut. Excellent school. She'll get a proper education. Without the mother? Sienna looked uncomfortable. Supervised visitation, of course, Catherine said smoothly. But Maya's lifestyle is unstable. Living with her mother in Roxbury? In that neighborhood? It's not appropriate for a child. More nods. You're so strong, Catherine, someone said. Doing what's best for the family even when it's hard. Catherine smiled modestly and ordered another bottle of champagne. 12 p.m., Emily's timeline. I was in a conference room with Rita, my chief counsel, and a custody lawyer named James Peterson. He was the best in Boston, had won custody cases against odds that would make most lawyers quit. Here's what we have, Rita said, spreading documents across the table. Fabricated restraining order, premeditated removal, evidence of racial animus, and a sudden custody petition with no basis in fact. Peterson reviewed everything carefully. This is strong, very strong. But Mrs. Ashford has money. She can drag this out for years. No, I said quietly. She doesn't have money. She just doesn't know it yet. I explained the debt situation. Peterson's eyes widened. You're going to foreclose on her business and her house before the custody hearing? I'm going to give her a choice, I corrected. She can fight me and lose everything. Or she can sign custody over to Maya and walk away with some dignity. That's aggressive. That's justice. Thursday, day 2, 9 a.m., Catherine's timeline. Catherine arrived at Ashford Capital headquarters feeling confident. She had a board meeting at 10 a.m., then her critical bank meeting at 4 p.m. The office was buzzing with the usual morning energy. Her assistant brought coffee, the good stuff, kept just for her, and the day's schedule. Mrs. Ashford, you have 3 calls scheduled before the board meeting. First is Mr. Chen from the Singapore division. Then cancel them, Catherine said. I need to prepare for Boston Trust. This loan is crucial. Of course. Should I pull the loan application materials? Yes, and make sure Daniel is prepared to attend with me. The bank likes to see family unity. Catherine spent the morning reviewing numbers, polishing her presentation. She was asking for $40 million. It was a big ask, but the Ashford name carried weight. Everything would be fine. 9 a.m., Emily's timeline. Robert Morrison from Boston Trust called me back at 9:03 a.m. Mrs. Vega, I got your message. You wanted to discuss the Ashford application? I do. Are you aware that Vega Corp acquired the Ashford Capital debt portfolio yesterday? There was a pause. No, I wasn't aware. Check your records. We now hold $67 million in Ashford loans, which makes us very interested in any new lending you might be considering. I see. His voice had changed, more careful now. And you're calling because I want to be present when you meet with Mrs. Ashford today. As the primary debt holder, I have concerns about additional lending. Mrs. Vega, that's highly unusual. Mr. Morrison, Vega Corp represents 18% of your commercial loan portfolio. We're your 3rd largest client. I'm asking for a seat at the table. Is that going to be a problem? Another pause. No, ma'am, of course not. The meeting is at 4 p.m. I'll be there at 3:45. I hung up and looked at Naomi. It's time to go shopping. We went to Newbury Street, to the stores Catherine shopped at. I bought an Armani suit, charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, a Hermes bag, shoes that cost more than my Honda. I was done being invisible. Boston Trust Bank occupies a historic building on State Street. All marble and mahogany, designed to make you feel small and grateful that they're willing to handle your money. I arrived at 3:45 p.m. wearing my new suit. The receptionist actually stood up when I walked in. I'm here to see Robert Morrison, I said. Emily Vega, Vega Corp. Of course, Mrs. Vega, right this way. She led me to a private conference room on the executive floor. Morrison was already there, standing when I entered. Mrs. Vega, he shook my hand. Thank you for coming. I've reviewed the debt acquisition. I wasn't aware Vega Corp had such significant exposure to Ashford Capital. We move quietly, I said, sitting down. At exactly 4 p.m., Catherine Ashford arrived. She walked into the conference room like she owned it, wearing Chanel and pearls, carrying a leather portfolio. Daniel was with her, looking uncomfortable in a suit that probably cost $3,000. Catherine saw Morrison first. Robert, good to see you. I hope you've had a chance to review our... Then she saw me. Her face went blank, confused, like her brain couldn't process what her eyes were seeing. Emily? She said my name like a question. What are you doing here? Hello, Catherine, I said calmly. Please sit down. I don't understand, Robert. This is a private meeting. She's Maya's mother. She has no business. Morrison cleared his throat. Mrs. Ashford, perhaps you should sit down. We have some matters to discuss. Catherine sat slowly, never taking her eyes off me. Daniel looked between us, confused. I don't understand what's happening, Catherine said. Her voice had an edge of panic now. Morrison opened a folder. Mrs. Ashford, you're here to request a $40 million bridge loan for Ashford Capital. Is that correct? Yes, as we discussed. To cover short-term cash flow issues while we finalize the merger with— I'm afraid I can't approve that loan, Morrison said. Catherine blinked. Excuse me? Your debt situation has changed significantly in the last 48 hours. It's come to our attention that VegaCorp has acquired your outstanding debt portfolio, all $67 million. That's impossible, Catherine looked at me. VegaCorp they're a major investment firm. They don't just buy random— She stopped, really looked at me for the first time. At my suit, my shoes, the way I was sitting. Mrs. Ashford, I said quietly, allow me to properly introduce myself. I'm Emily Vega, founder and chairman of VegaCorp. The color drained from her face. You're lying, she whispered. I reached into my bag and pulled out a business card, slid it across the table to her. Emily Vega, founder and chairman, VegaCorp portfolio, $1.2 billion. Catherine stared at it like it might bite her. This is a joke, she said. Some kind of sick joke. You work in healthcare. You live in Roxbury. You drive a 2001 Honda Civic, yes. I also own this building. Well, the commercial loan division of it anyway. No, Catherine shook her head. No, this is fraud. Identity theft. Robert, this woman is clearly mentally ill. She's been stalking my family and now— Mrs. Ashford. Morrison's voice was firm. I've verified Mrs. Vega's credentials. VegaCorp is indeed one of our largest clients, and they now hold all of your outstanding debt. I leaned forward. Catherine, you have a balloon payment due tomorrow at 5 p.m., $67 million. Can you pay it? Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. You can't just— This isn't how business works. We had a payment schedule, a contract, which includes an acceleration clause, I said. In the event of significant financial distress or reputational damage, the creditor, that's me now, can demand immediate full repayment. You triggered that clause when you threw my daughter into the street. That was a personal matter, was it? I pulled out another folder. Because according to these emails between you and Daniel, you've been planning to remove Maya for 4 months. Quote, the board won't accept a black woman as the face of an executive's family. Would you like me to read the rest? Daniel went white. How did you— I'm very good at my job, Daniel. I've been doing it for 30 years while you people looked right through me. Catherine was shaking now. You can't do this. I'll sue. Sue with what money? I stood up. You have until 5 p.m. tomorrow, Catherine. Have a blessed day. I walked out of that conference room and into the elevator. I didn't look back. Behind me, I heard Catherine start to cry. I picked up Maya at my apartment at 1:30. She was wearing her best suit, navy blue, professional, her hair pulled back. She looked beautiful and terrified. Mama, please tell me what's happening. You've been so mysterious and I'm so confused and— You'll understand soon. Do you trust me? Yes, but— Then trust me now. We drove to Ashford Capital headquarters. Maya hadn't been back since she'd worked there, before Daniel convinced her to take the job at another firm so there wouldn't be conflicts of interest. The building was familiar to her, but she didn't understand why we were here. The receptionist looked up as we entered. Can I help you? We're here for the board meeting, I said. Emily Vega and Maya Vega. The receptionist checked her list, confused. I don't see— Let me call upstairs. A minute later, Rita appeared in the lobby. Mrs. Vega, perfect timing. Maya looked at Rita, clearly a high-powered attorney in an expensive suit, and then at me. Mama, who is this? Maya, this is Rita Kowalski. She's my chief counsel. You're what? Come on, baby. Time for the meeting. We rode the elevator to the top floor, the executive boardroom. Maya had been in this room exactly once for the company Christmas party 2 years ago. Catherine had made it clear that staff weren't usually invited to board meetings. We walked in. The room was full. Catherine sat at the head of the table, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her makeup couldn't hide the dark circles. Daniel was next to her, staring at his hands. The 5 board members were already seated, looking confused and concerned. And there in the corner was the blonde woman, Natalie. She looked smug. Catherine saw me and stood up. What is she doing here? Security. Security works for me now, I said calmly. As of 9 a.m. this morning when I foreclosed on this building. Maya grabbed my arm. Mama, what? Rita stepped forward, putting a briefcase on the table with a heavy thud. Good afternoon. I'm Rita Kowalski, Chief Counsel for VegaCorp. This meeting is now a restructuring session for Ashford Capital, which is now under new ownership. She opened the briefcase and started distributing folders to each board member. What you're looking at is documentation of the debt acquisition, foreclosure proceedings, and transfer of assets. All legal. All filed with the state this morning. One of the board members opened his folder. His eyes widened. This shows VegaCorp owns 100% of company debt and assets. That's correct, Rita said. Catherine slammed her hand on the table. This is illegal. You can't just buy a company without— We didn't buy the company, I said, walking slowly to the head of the table. We bought your debt, and when you failed to make payment, we foreclosed. It's all very legal, Catherine. Your lawyers can explain it to you. I looked at the board members. Gentlemen, ladies, I apologize for the confusion. Let me properly introduce myself. I pressed a button on the conference room controller. The screen behind me lit up. My face appeared. Professional headshot. Below it, my credentials. Emily Vega, founder and chairman, VegaCorp MI, TMBA, 2002. Portfolio, $1.2 billion. Specialization, distressed asset, acquisition and restructuring. Maya made a small sound. I looked at her. She was staring at the screen like it was written in a foreign language. Mama? Her voice was tiny. What is this? Later, baby, I promise. I turned back to the board. I've been doing this for 30 years. I buy companies that are failing and I fix them. Ashford Capital is my newest acquisition. Daniel finally found his voice. But you're Maya's mother. You work in healthcare. You live in— I volunteer at a nursing home 3 days a week, I corrected. The other 4 days I run my company. I live in Roxbury by choice, not necessity. And I drive a Honda because I believe in not wasting money on things that don't matter. Catherine's face was red, her hands trembling. You lied to us. To Maya. You're a fraud. I never lied, I said calmly. You never asked. You assumed. There's a difference. I nodded to Rita. She distributed a second set of folders. What you're looking at now is evidence, I said. Text messages between Daniel and Natalie Preston going back 8 months. Hotel receipts. Documentation of an affair that was ongoing while Daniel was married to my daughter. Natalie's smug expression vanished. Next page. Emails between Catherine and Daniel, dated 4 months ago, discussing how to remove Maya before Daniel's promotion. Direct quote from Catherine. We need to handle this delicately but definitively. Another quote. The board won't accept a black woman as the face of an executive's family. The board members looked at Catherine in shock. Next page. The fabricated restraining order Catherine filed this week. Claims Maya is unstable and violent. Police reports supporting this? 0. Medical documentation? 0. Witnesses? Only Catherine's friends. I walked around the table slowly. Final page. The custody petition filed to take my granddaughter, a 5-year-old child. On what grounds? That she's living in unsuitable conditions in Roxbury. I stopped behind Maya's chair, put my hands on her shoulders. My daughter lives with me temporarily because you threw her out of her own home. My daughter, who has 2 degrees and a 6-figure salary. My daughter, who you called a diversity hire. My daughter, who you decided wasn't appropriate for your family. I looked at each board member. Inappropriate. That was the word you used, wasn't it, Catherine? Catherine was crying now, mascara running down her face. Do you know what that word means? I asked quietly. When you call a 5-year-old child inappropriate, it means you judged her bloodline. You judged my grandbaby and found her unworthy because she's black. That's not— I never said— Catherine was stammering. You said it on Tuesday night, on your front steps. Daniel needs appropriate heirs. I heard you. The room was silent. I walked back to the head of the table, stood directly in front of Catherine. Here's what happens next, I said. I'm giving you 2 options. Option 1. I liquidate everything. Sell Ashford Capital for parts. 200 employees lose their jobs. Your family name disappears from Boston business after 137 years. You lose the house. Daniel loses his trust fund. Everything. Gone. Catherine's face crumpled. Option 2. I restructure. Keep the company. Rebrand it. Save the jobs. But under my terms. What terms? She whispered. I counted on my fingers. 1. Daniel signs full custody of Zoe to Maya. No fight. No lawyers. Done today. 2. You issue a public apology. Full page in the Boston Globe. You admit what you did, what you said, all of it. 3. You resign from all boards. Retire. Quietly. 4. The new CEO of this company will be Maya. She's earned it. Maya? Daniel looked at my daughter in shock. She doesn't have the experience. She has an MBA from Boston University and 8 years of software engineering experience, I said. She built systems that process $50 million daily. She's the only person in this room who's not a criminal. I looked at Catherine. You have until 5 p.m. today. Choose. Then I walked to the door. Maya followed, moving like she was in a dream. As I reached the exit, I turned back. Oh, and Catherine, one more thing. She looked up, mascara streaked and broken. You spent 5 years looking past me at dinner tables, I said softly. You should have been watching what I was building underneath them. I walked out. Behind me, I heard Catherine start sobbing. Maya didn't speak to me for 3 days. After we left that boardroom, she got in her car, the Subaru that was still hers, still paid for with her own money, and she drove away without a word. I let her go. Some truths are too big to swallow all at once. Some revelations need time to settle, like sediment in water. On the 4th day, she came to my real home. Not the apartment in Roxbury. That was just a set piece, a costume I wore. My real home is a brownstone on Commonwealth Avenue in Back Bay. 4 stories, original hardwood floors. A garden in the back where I grow tomatoes and collard greens because wealth should never make you forget where you came from. Maya stood on the front steps, staring at the brass numbers next to the door like they might rearrange themselves into something that made sense. I opened the door before she could knock. Come in, baby, I said. She walked through the foyer, marble floors, a chandelier I'd inherited when I bought the building, and into the living room. Original crown molding, fireplace, photos on the mantel, her kindergarten graduation, her college degree, Zoe's birth. I'd been there for all of it, just not in the way she thought. How long? She asked. Her voice was flat, exhausted. How long what? How long have you been? She gestured around. This? How long have you been rich? I built Vegacorp in 1995, so about 30 years. She laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. 30 years. My whole life you've been a billionaire, and you let me think you were barely scraping by. Not a billionaire. The portfolio is $1.2 billion, but that's assets under management, not personal. Mama, her voice cracked. Don't do that. Don't hide behind semantics. You lied to me. I never lied. You let me believe a lie. That's the same thing. I sat down on the couch. Is it? Yes. She was crying now, angry tears. I sent you money every month, Mama. $500 I could barely afford because I thought you needed it. I worried about you. I bought you groceries. I felt guilty every time I bought something nice for myself because I thought you were struggling. I know. You know? That's all you have to say? You know? I kept every check, I said quietly. Every single one. They're in an account in your name, with interest. It's about $45,000 now. I was going to give it to you when Zoe started college. Maya stared at me. Why? Because you needed to know you could take care of me. You needed to feel that strength, that pride. If I told you the truth, you would have questioned everything. Every job offer, every promotion, every success. You would have wondered, did I earn this? Or did Mama buy it for me? You don't get to make that choice for me. You're right, I said. I don't, but I did, and I'd do it again. She turned away, arms wrapped around herself. I spent 5 years feeling ashamed of you. Do you know that? Ashamed. At their dinners, when Catherine would pat your arm and talk to you like you were a child, I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed of my own mother. That hurt. I won't lie. That hit deep. I know, I said softly. How can you just sit there and say I know? Doesn't it bother you that your daughter was ashamed of you? No, she spun around. No? No, because you weren't ashamed of me, Maya. You were ashamed of what they made you feel about yourself. That's different. I stood up and walked to her. Catherine Ashford made you feel small. She made you feel like you had to apologize for where you came from, for who you are, for me. And instead of fighting back, you shrank. You made yourself smaller and smaller, trying to fit into their world. Because I loved him, she whispered. I loved Daniel. I know you did, baby. And that's not your fault. Love makes us blind sometimes, but it doesn't have to make us small. I took her hands. I let them underestimate me because that gave me power. But you were already powerful. You just forgot. I don't feel powerful, Mama. I feel like a fool. You're not a fool. You're human. And now you get to decide. What do you do with what you know? She pulled her hands away. What am I supposed to do? You've already destroyed them. You took their company, their house, everything. No, I corrected. I gave you a choice, and Catherine made hers. 6 months later, late November, Ashford Vega, Capitol Headquarters. The sign outside the building was new, sleek, modern. 2 names intertwined, Ashford Vega. Inside, the culture had changed completely. The old guard, Catherine's friends, the board members who'd enabled her discrimination, were gone, retired, replaced by people who'd earned their positions through merit, not connections. The workforce was different too, more diverse, more women, more people who looked like they'd actually worked for a living instead of inheriting their position. And at the center of it all was Maya. I watched her through the glass walls of her corner office. CEO, the nameplate said, Maya Vega, as she conducted a video call with investors. She was confident now, poised. The woman who'd sat shrinking at Catherine's dinner table was gone. In her place was someone who knew her worth. The call ended and she saw me standing outside. She waved me in. Mama, you didn't have to come all the way down here. I told you we could do dinner at your place. I wanted to see you in action, I said. How'd the call go? Good. Great, actually. We're up 40% from last quarter. The sustainable tech investments are performing better than projected. She paused. You were right about that sector. I usually am, I smiled. But you're the one who executed it. That's all you, baby. There was a knock on the door. Zoe burst in, followed by her after-school care counselor. Mommy, Grandma! She ran to us, backpack bouncing. Miss Rodriguez says I can show you my art project. She pulled out a painting. It was abstract, lots of colors, the way 5-year-olds paint when they're happy. It's our family, she explained, pointing. That's you, Mommy, and that's Grandma, and that's me. We're all together, and we're all smiling. Maya's eyes filled with tears. It's beautiful, baby. Can we hang it in your office? Absolutely. While Zoe showed her counselor around the office, Maya and I stood at the window looking out over the Boston skyline. She's happy, Maya said quietly. For the first time in months, she's really happy. Because you're happy. Am I? Maya turned to me. I'm still angry at you sometimes, Mama. For the lies, for the secrets, for making decisions about my life without asking me. I know, but I also understand why you did it. And I'm grateful. Even when I'm angry, I'm grateful. She took a breath. Catherine asked to see me. I went very still. When? Last week. She sent a letter, through her lawyer. She wants to meet, to apologize. What did you say? I haven't responded yet. I wanted to talk to you first. I looked at my daughter. It's not my decision, baby. She hurt you. You get to decide if you're ready to hear her apology. Are you ready? I thought about that. 6 months ago, I wanted Catherine destroyed. I wanted her to lose everything, to feel every bit of the humiliation she'd inflicted on my family. But revenge, I'd learned over 30 years in business, is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It eats you from the inside. I'm ready to listen, I said finally. If you want me there. I do. The meeting was set for the following Tuesday at a neutral location, a coffee shop in Cambridge, far from the social circles where Catherine used to reign. She arrived early. I saw her through the window as Maya and I walked up. She looked smaller than I remembered. Older. She was wearing a simple dress from Ann Taylor, not Chanel. Her hair was different. No more expensive highlights, just natural gray growing in. She stood when we entered. Her hands were shaking. Maya, Emily, thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. We sat down. The silence was heavy. Catherine took a breath. I've been in therapy for 6 months, 3 times a week. My therapist says I need to take accountability, not just say I'm sorry. So that's what I'm trying to do. She looked at Maya. I treated you horribly, not just at the end, but from the beginning. I judged you based on the color of your skin, your background, things that had nothing to do with who you are as a person. I made you feel unwelcome in your own home. I made you question your own worth. And her voice broke. I taught my son that it was okay to discard you when you were no longer convenient. Maya's face was unreadable. Catherine turned to me. Emily, I looked at you and I saw someone beneath me. Someone not worth my time or respect. I dismissed you. I patronized you. I treated you like you were invisible. I was counting on that, I said quietly. She smiled sadly. I know, and that's the most damaging part, isn't it? You were so much smarter than me, so much more successful, and I never even saw it because I was too busy feeling superior. Why? Maya asked. Why did you hate us so much? Catherine was quiet for a long time. I don't think I hated you. I think I hated that you made me feel things I didn't want to feel. What things? Inadequate, scared. My family's money was old money, inherited money. I didn't build anything. I didn't create anything. I just maintained. And then you came along, brilliant, educated, building a career, and you made me realize how little I'd actually accomplished. She wiped her eyes. And Zoe. God, Zoe. She was so joyful, so free, so completely herself. And I saw her, and I thought about my own childhood, how rigid it was, how I was never allowed to just be a kid. And instead of feeling happy for her, I resented her for having what I never did. So you tried to take it away from her, Maya said. Yes, I'm so sorry, Maya. I'm so desperately sorry. The apology hung in the air. Finally, Maya spoke. I don't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever, but I believe you're trying to be better. Catherine nodded, tears streaming down her face. That's more than I deserve. Probably, Maya agreed. But Zoe deserves to know her paternal family. Not Daniel. He made his choice. But you, if you can show up as the grandmother she deserves, not the one trying to fix her or change her or make her into something she's not. I can try. I will try. Then we'll start there. Supervised visits, once a month. We'll see how it goes. Catherine looked at me. And you, Emily? Can you forgive me? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I can give you something better than forgiveness, I said. I can give you the truth. You didn't make me invisible, Catherine. I chose to be invisible. And the reason I chose it is because I learned a long time ago that the most powerful people in any room are the ones nobody's watching. I leaned forward. When you're invisible, people show you who they really are. They drop their masks. They reveal their weaknesses. They make mistakes. And if you're patient enough, if you're quiet enough, you can gather everything you need to dismantle them completely. Catherine went pale. But here's the thing, I continued. I didn't do this just for revenge. I did it to protect my daughter and my granddaughter. I did it to show Maya that she doesn't have to make herself small to deserve love. And I did it to teach you, and everyone like you, a lesson. What lesson? That you should never judge a person by what you think you see. Never dismiss someone because they don't look like you, or sound like you, or come from where you come from. Because the woman serving you coffee might own the building. The janitor might be smarter than your CEO. And the quiet grandmother in the corner might be the most dangerous person you've ever met. I stood up. You can spend time with Zoe, under Maya's terms, but you'll never underestimate a black woman again. Will you? No, Catherine whispered. Never. Good. That's the beginning of wisdom. That evening I drove Zoe and Maya home to their new place, a beautiful condo in the South End with enough room for both of them and windows that let in so much light you could grow anything. Maya had insisted on buying it herself. With her salary, her signing bonus as CEO, money she'd earned. I didn't argue. She needed that. After we put Zoe to bed, she fell asleep clutching the stuffed elephant that had been with her through everything. Maya and I sat in her living room drinking tea. Mama, can I ask you something? Always. Do you regret it? The disguise? The years pretending to be poor? Missing out on, I don't know, the life you could have had? I thought about my brownstone, mostly empty except for me. I thought about the charity events I never attended, the social circles I never joined, the recognition I never sought. No, I said. I don't regret a single day. Why not? Because power isn't about what people see. It's about what you can do. Catherine had visibility. She had her name on buildings, her photo in society pages. Everyone knew who she was. And you? I had freedom. I could move through the world without anyone watching. I could make decisions without anyone questioning. I could build something real without anyone trying to tear it down out of jealousy or fear. I set down my tea. Maya, the greatest gift you can have in this world is being underestimated. When people think you're weak, they underestimate you. When they think you're poor, they ignore you. When they think you're nobody, they reveal everything. But doesn't it hurt, having people look through you like you don't exist? Sometimes, I admitted. But then I remember, every time Catherine dismissed me, I was learning her business model. Every time Daniel ignored me, I was memorizing his passwords. Every time they talked past me like I wasn't there, I was gathering intelligence. I smiled. They thought I was invisible because I was insignificant. They didn't realize I was invisible because I chose to be. There's a difference. What's the difference? One is powerlessness. The other is strategy. Maya was quiet for a long time. Then, teach me. Teach you what? How to do what you do. How to build something that lasts. How to be powerful without being loud about it. I looked at my daughter, CEO, mother, survivor, and I felt something swell in my chest. Pride, joy, hope. Baby, I said, you already know how. You just didn't realize it yet. What do you mean? You built a career in a field that didn't want you. You survived a marriage to a man who was ashamed of you. You raised a daughter who's confident and joyful despite everything. You did all of that while people were telling you that you weren't good enough. I took her hand. You've been powerful your whole life. You just thought you had to be loud about it. But the quietest rivers run the deepest, Maya. Remember that. 3 months later, I still drive the Honda Civic. Still clip coupons on Sunday. Still volunteer at the nursing home on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Mrs. Patterson, one of my regular patients, watches the news while I help her with lunch. Did you see this story? She asks, pointing at the TV. Some big business scandal, that Ashford family. They say the daughter-in-law took over the company. A black woman. Isn't that something? It certainly is, I say, helping her with her soup. You know what I love about you, Emily? Mrs. Patterson smiles. You never changed. Still the same kind woman you've always been? Yes, ma'am. Although, she squints at me, I saw you on the news last month. Something about a big donation to the community center. They said it was from Vega Corp. That's $1 billion company. You know anything about that? I smile. I might have heard something. Emily Vega. She looks at me hard. Are you secretly rich? Mrs. Patterson, I'm 67 years old. If I was rich, would I be making you cream of wheat on a Tuesday morning? She laughs. I suppose not. But still, there's something different about you lately. Can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe I'm just happy. Maybe. She pats my hand. You're a good woman, Emily. I hope someone's taking care of you the way you take care of everyone else. Someone is, I say, thinking of Maya and Zoe. I promise you, someone is. That afternoon, I drive my Honda to the Vega building. The parking attendant grins when he sees me. Mrs. Vega, I keep telling you, you can park in the executive garage. And I keep telling you, I like the walk. I take the elevator to the 40th floor. Naomi's waiting with quarterly reports, and Andre has security updates, and Rita has 3 contracts that need my signature. I handle it all in 2 hours. 3 decades of experience makes you efficient. Then I drive to Maya's office. She's in a meeting, but when she sees me through the glass, she wraps it up quickly. Mama, I wasn't expecting you. I brought lunch. I hold up a bag. Sandwiches from that deli you like. We eat in her office, looking out over the city we both conquered in our own ways. The board approved the new diversity initiative, Maya says. Starting next quarter, we're partnering with HBCUs to create a pipeline program for young investors. That's wonderful, baby. It's because of you. Everything I'm doing is because you showed me it was possible. No, I correct her. It's because of you. I showed you it was possible. You made it real. My phone buzzes. A text from Zoe, sent from Maya's old phone. Grandma, can we have movie night Friday? I miss you. I show it to Maya. She smiles. She really does love you, you know. She talks about you constantly. Grandma says this. Grandma does that. She's a special kid. She is, and she's going to grow up knowing she comes from a long line of strong women. Women who built empires. Women who didn't ask permission to exist. I look at my daughter. That's your legacy, Maya. Not the money, not the company. Her, knowing that she can be anything, do anything, and nobody gets to make her small. Because of you. Because of us. People ask me now, don't you regret the years in disguise? The dinners where they ignored you? The times they made you sit in the kitchen like you didn't matter? I tell them, every dismissal was data. Every insult was intelligence. While Catherine Ashford thought I was insignificant, I was memorizing her business model. I was learning her weaknesses. I was building a case against her so airtight that when I finally struck, she couldn't even defend herself. She saw an old black woman in a Walmart sweater and assumed I was ignorant. She assumed I was powerless. She assumed I didn't understand the conversations happening around me. She was wrong about all of it. The greatest weapon you can have in this world is being underestimated. Let them think you're weak. Let them talk past you like you're furniture. Let them believe you don't understand. And while they're busy feeling superior, you do the math. You make the calls. You build your empire so quietly they don't hear it coming until it's too late. Catherine Ashford spent her life looking down on people. She never thought to look around. If she had, she might have noticed that the woman serving her at the charity gala owned the building, that the quiet grandmother in the corner owned the bank, that the woman she called Emily Dear owned her future. They spent years looking past me. I used that time well. My daughter runs a company worth $200 million now. My granddaughter goes to the best school in Boston, not because someone gave it to her, but because her mother earned it. And I still take the bus 3 days a week to volunteer at a nursing home, because wealth should never make you forget where you came from. And sometimes, late at night, I get emails from women I've never met, women who read about what happened, women who've been dismissed and underestimated and looked through like they're invisible. They all ask the same question. How did you do it? How did you build something so powerful while everyone thought you were nobody? And I tell them the truth. I didn't build it despite being invisible. I built it because I was invisible. Never judge a book by its worn cover. You never know who's sitting behind the wheel. And never ever mistake quiet for weak. Sometimes the most powerful people in the room are the ones nobody notices until it's far too late. Emily, back in her Honda Civic, pulling up to the nursing home. She's wearing her Golden Years Home Services uniform. She grabs her bag. Simple canvas, nothing fancy. Mrs. Patterson is waiting by the window, waving. Emily waves back, smiling. The camera pulls back, showing the nursing home. Then further back, showing the neighborhood. Then further still, showing the Boston skyline. And there, among all those buildings, one stands out. The Vega Building. 40 stories of glass and steel.